Because I run a job board, I talk to applicants almost every day. And many of the people I meet make the same mistake. They have no clear job search goals. So they apply everywhere, every day, all day long. You might think it's smart to send lots of applications. After all, it's a numbers game, right? It's not. The more you narrow your search, the easier everything gets, and the happier you'll be in your next job. Stop chasing every lead. Instead, focus on what you really want. Now, figuring out your goals can be hard, but we have a MaxList resource that can help. Finding focus in your job search. Go to maxlist.org/focus. Our free step-by-step MaxList guide will help you create your own job search goals. Get your copy today. Visit maxlist.org/focus. Again, that's maxlist.org/focus. This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of MaxList. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. Mentors matter when you look for work. Learning from the experience of others can help you get your next job faster and easier. Stephen Lozano is here to talk about top career tips from more than 200 professionals of color. He's the founder of Vitaes. It's an online platform that helps young people make better career choices by sharing the work journeys of professionals of color. Stephen joins us from Seattle, Washington. Well, Stephen, here's where I want to start. You run an online learning platform, Vitaes.com, and the heart of your site is a collection of more than 200 interviews with professionals of color about their careers. Why did you choose to focus on interviews? Why not write a book or create an online course? What makes interviews so valuable?
Well, in my learning about careers, and that really was the kind of the genesis of why I started Vitaes, is that I had my own issues with my career and needed to make a change early in my career. And the one thing after talking to tons of school counselors and reading a lot of books, the one thing that just kept floating to the top was that if you really want to learn about career, go talk to somebody who's doing it. And that's called an informational interview. And so that is the best tool to learn about a particular career, is to essentially summarize it in a conversation. And frankly, most people prefer listening to a video than reading a book or reading a text or a website. So that was my conclusion, and that's how I got started.
And why is an informational interview the best way to do this? What makes these conversations better than a book or an online course or other educational tools?
Because you're really focusing, you're asking somebody about their life, and most people love talking about themselves. We all, as professionals and frankly individuals, want to be accepted. And so if somebody comes to you and asks you, "Can you tell me about what you do? Can you tell me about your career? Can you tell me about what you like about your career?" It just connects us both. And as I mentioned, when I spoke to, dozens of school counselors, both in high school and in college, that was the one thing that all the counselors kind of all agreed on, was to help students, for that matter, job seekers or job changers, explore a particular career. Go talk to somebody who's working at it, because they're going to give you the best information.
Who's the audience for your platform? Are they high school students, recent graduates, or professionals, no matter where they might be in their career?
The primary target and audience for Vitaes, as I put it together, were students, high school students and college students. But what I've learned in many discussions with educators is that educators are looking for tools to help them discharge their responsibilities as career counselors. And there's a there's a big push now to connect education with the real world, which makes perfect sense, right? At the end of the day, what is the purpose of education if not to prepare our youth for what it's like in the real world, i.e., working in a career. So they're always looking for tools, and Vitaes has kind of hit a nerve and helped deliver content that they're also looking for as they try to engage their students in what it's like outside the classroom.
How did you choose the people that you interviewed?
Well, it's funny. I've been really active in the community here in Seattle. Both I was on the board of YMCA. I'm now on their life board, and I'm on the board of Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And so I started with my network, right? And we maybe even talk about network a little bit later. And so I started with professionals of color because I believe that's where the greatest need is for diversity in the workplace. I happen to believe in an equitable workplace. I think it's best for all stakeholders. And to really build equity, you need a diverse talent pool. And that's why I chose interviewing professionals of color. And so I reached out to the other board members on Big Brothers, Big Sisters, board members on the YMCA, and my personal network, and interviewed them and asked for referrals, and it just has kept going from there.
Were you looking to find people in certain careers or professions? Once, as you reached out to your network, you must have had many offers of people who would agree to be interviewed. How did you choose the occupations that are represented on the site?
Well, initially it was just working through my network, and my previous career as a corporate banker. Guess what? I knew a lot of bankers. I knew a lot of lawyers, and again through my network in the community-based organizations, a pretty wide swath of the business community here in Seattle. And once I got a fairly decent size of interviews, I started reaching out to educators and talking to them. And so it's just continuing to work the network and asking people, who do you know that you think would be really interested and would be able to, to contribute to the content. And what I found, Mac, is that people are really interested in giving back. Most of the individuals who I've interviewed understand the value of representation in content for education, see that there's a lack of it in our education system, and a genuine interest in giving back to the community in which they took as we all, obtain help and mentoring in our careers. We build our own.
How do you measure the success of these interviews? What does success look like?
Well, like so many different endeavors, you don't really know the full impact. I was not being an educator. I didn't understand how there is a dearth of quality content for school counselors to share with their students, and so that was a really unexpected real benefit that school counselors in high school in particular were just very impressed with the depth of content and how much it really responds to current policies that the Board of Education statewide require. And anecdotally, in a variety of different meetings, both through the YMCA and through public schools around the Puget Sound, is I get lots of responses. I usually always ask our students to complete a short survey, and a common refrain that I hear from students is, "I didn't know that was a career. I didn't know you could do that." And so, the grand purpose for Vitaes is really to help students think differently about what's possible, and through representation, they make that connection. And frankly, at the end of the day, I believe firmly also in, trying to close the wealth gap. I think there is a significant wealth gap here in this country. And as an example, I grew up lower middle class in the Central Valley. My father was immigrated from Mexico. And here I am, 35 plus years later, successful and with some generational wealth that I think a lot of others could benefit from.
Well, I want to take a break, Stephen. And when we come back, you've got a list of 7 top career tips that came out of these conversations, and I want to walk through them one by one. So stay with us. When we return, Stephen Lozano will continue to talk about the career advice that he got from more than 200 professionals of color. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. One of the best habits I've formed is keeping a gratitude journal. Every night, I write down 3 things for which I'm grateful. And what stands out, besides my good fortune, is the difference so many people have made in my life. This time of year is all about gratitude and giving thanks to others. But besides the people who help us, there's another person we don't thank enough: ourselves. We're often our own worst critics, and we may forget that we're trying to do our best. Therapy can help you learn skills that empower you to be the best version of yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched to a licensed therapist. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/DreamJobPod today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DreamJobPod. What if in 2024, you got a little bit better every day? When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. And if Babbel can help you start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks, imagine what you can do in a full year. I'm taking a vacation in Germany this year with my wife, Chris. And by using Babbel every day, I'm learning the German I need to order food, shop in stores, and find the places I want to see. You can do this too. Stop buying phrase books and using translation apps. Instead, sign up for Babbel today. Here's a special, limited time deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only our listeners at babbel.com/dreamjob. Rules and restrictions may apply. We're back in the Max List studio. I'm talking with Stephen Lozano. He's the founder of Vitaes. It's an online platform that helps young people make better career choices by sharing the work journeys of professionals of color. Stephen joins us from Seattle, Washington. Now, Stephen, before the break, we were talking about the platform that you created, Vitaes, and the video conversations you have there that are available to all about the career journeys of several hundred professionals of color. And when you and I talked about this before the interview, there were 7 top tips that came through again and again throughout those conversations. I want to run through them one by one. And let's start with number 1 on the list, which the people you interviewed said you got to be open to change. What did the people you talk with mean by this?
That theme came through over and over and over again, and from individuals who have had very successful careers. And I think what they mean by that is, and every one of us has multiple successful careers in them. I mean, I know I started out as a CPA and then did something else, decided to get into banking, and I had a successful career in banking, and now I'm, an entrepreneur. New opportunities are the gateway, can be the gateway to more rewarding careers. I mean, at the end of the day, life is risky. Bet on yourself. And the individuals who really said this frequently said, we've always been satisfied with the results by saying yes, listening, and if you have a lot of questions, ask them. So change can and will be good.
I'm curious, change can be hard. It can also be scary. Did the people you speak with have advice about how to deal with change and that fear in order to be open to new things?
One of the interviewees, a guy named Spencer Sheff, he's a young man who works at BlackRock, mentioned this. He played a lot of football, and one of his football coaches said to him, "Hey, if you want to be successful, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because if you're trying to press on to the next level, you're not going to be good at it right away. You have to, whether it's playing sports or whether it's a career, when you take the next step, you're not going to be good at it. Proficiency comes with practice, right? In any endeavor, right? So you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That means it's going to be scary. That means there's going to be some potential for failure. But if you bet on yourself and you work at it, that good things can happen. So I guess that's the advice.
Number 2 on your list that of career tips you got from these conversations was find a mentor. What kind of mentors are we talking about, Stephen? And what difference did the people you spoke with say mentors could make in a career?
Yeah, mentors can be extremely, extremely helpful. They can, if you're into a new career or a new industry, somebody's already been there before. So take advantage of their knowledge because you don't want to recreate the wheel. Learn from others that are already where you want to go, right? I mean, that's the real value. And alternatively, in addition to a mentor, even the following step could be a sponsor, somebody who not only helps you, but actually coaches you into the right places. So one thing to help you save time, save energy, get smart quickly with the learning curve, somebody else to actually be looking out for you, say in a big organization, and be advising you on where you should be in that organization for future opportunities, a sponsor.
Your third tip that you got from these conversations was to recognize that your network is hugely valuable, both now and in the future. What did the people you spoke with have in mind here? Why did they keep coming back to the value of the network?
When I was in my former job running commercial banking, people want to work with people they know and trust, right? So whenever I was recruiting anybody, I would always ask the people that worked in my office, who do you know? And that's called a network, right? And if you work with somebody and you know their capabilities and you know who they are as personalities, it eliminates any mistakes if you decide to recruit them and bring them into the organization. And everybody immediately starts working better together. And also, I'm sure, Mac, you are more knowledgeable about this than anybody else. And that is, most jobs aren't posted. The jobs that you really want are the ones that get handled without any posting. It's handled between friends and be exactly as I described. Who do you know that would be a good fit for this in another organization? And that's the network. And so the network, not just from a working perspective, but also, in your social life as well. As my mom used to say, if you want to have a friend, you have to be a friend. And so that's all about maintaining a network.
Another tip that you got from these conversations is the people you spoke with said career satisfaction comes from being good at your job. What did the interviewees have in mind here? What was the point they were trying to make?
Well, again, as the point here is pretty clear. You're happier when you're performing and you're successful in your existing career. You're paid well, you receive acceptance and support, and you're admired by your peers. And I think another word for that is acceptance. And I think we're all looking for acceptance in our social life and our work life. Success both professionally and socially comes, or at least from a working perspective, comes from being admired and being successful. And if you're doing well in your job, you understand your responsibilities, you're a leader in that organization by thinking like an owner, and perhaps helping leveraging your network with perhaps other roles in the organization. Um, I think that's kind of what they were driving at.
I'm curious. Many people, when they talk about career success, talk about titles or salary first, not about job satisfaction. Did that come up in your conversations?
I think for the uninitiated, pay and consideration is usually kind of the number one topic. But as anybody who's worked in a job for a long period of time, um, you kind of, it's kind of like a new car. After you buy a new car, after a couple of months, it's just a car, right? And after you get a particular pay, you fall into that rhythm of earning that money. But at the end of the day, you're giving your, if you will, life and soul to the career. You have to feel like what you do is meaningful. Job satisfaction, career satisfaction. Do people respect me? Do others, do leaders in the organization see me as a possible promotion candidate? Um, and so career satisfaction just becomes more and more important to us as people, as persons.
Finally, Stephen, one of the recommendations that you got from these conversations, the professionals kept telling you that you need to find and connect with your community. How does doing this help you in your career?
It actually dovetails nicely into the network, and also just self-actualization and personal satisfaction, right? Um, we all come from a particular tribe or community, right? People who are like us, and we always seek acceptance there. And if you have a successful career, if you're able to connect with others in your community, and that can facilitate helping the next generation improve. People like yourself who comes from your background, uh, whether it's your ethnic community or whether or not your social community. I think we're all seeking ways to feel more connected, and certainly with COVID over the past few years, I think we got disconnected, right? And I think we're all kind of coming back together. We're all kind of getting back into the office, and that social connection has got a tremendous amount of value. I'm not a psychologist, but I think people feel better when they connect with others, and the community part I think is a big deal.
Well, it's been a great conversation, Stephen. Now, tell us what's next for you.
There's a big emphasis these days in education on trades. As many of us know, in the work out in the workplace these days, there's a shortage of skilled craftsmen. I'm really working hard to get a lot more of those kinds of careers on Vitaes because they're very valuable and can be very well paying. And not only build the content significantly from a couple hundred to a couple thousand, but also really get into the school education system. Get it into middle schools, get it into high schools, not just here in Washington State, but across the country. I've got this grand vision that thousands of schools around the country are getting their counselors to use this content, making them aware of the content and the variability, and helping kids better navigate the career gauntlet. Most kids do not know what they want to do, and that has never changed. But if there's a tool to help them explore and navigate at their pace, I think it's got a tremendous amount of value, and that's what I keep hearing.
Well, I know that listeners can learn more about your work by visiting your website, and that's vitaes.com. We'll be sure to include that link in the show notes and the website article. And you also invite listeners to connect with you on LinkedIn. And when listeners do reach out to you, Stephen, I hope they'll mention they heard you on Find Your Dream Job. Now, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want a listener to remember about your top career tips from the more than 200 professionals of color that you interviewed for Vitaes?
take risks and listen to yourself and be positive about the future.
Next week, our guest will be Kat Nelson-Troyer. She's an executive, team, and career coach and the CEO of Jigsaw Solutions. Kat also co-hosts the excellent Real Job Talk podcast. Because of uncertainty or fear, you may apply for jobs that don't feel right. But doing this can make your job search harder and even hurt your career. Join us next Wednesday when Kat Nelson-Troyer and I talk about how to find a job that's a good fit for you. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by MaxList. Susan Thornton-Hoff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry-Anderson manages our social media. Our sound engineer and editor is Matt Fiorillo. Dawn Mold creates our transcripts, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week. Have you ever been asked this in a job interview? Tell me about a time when you didn't agree with your boss. What would you say? This is what's called a behavioral interview question, and it's a common tactic. Employers use this kind of question to explore your fit for a job based on your past experience. It can be an easy question to answer if you have the right strategy. I show you how to answer these gotcha questions in our free MaxList guide, 100 Behavioral Interview Questions You Need to Know. To get your copy, visit maxlist.org/questions. You'll also learn 4 simple steps for answering any behavioral interview question. Again, that's maxlist.org/questions. You can count on getting these questions in your next interview. Why not get the answers before you walk into the interview room? Go to maxlist.org/questions.